Welcome to Coach's Corner with Coach Eric Struthers. Welcome to another edition of Coach's Corner with head basketball coach Eric Struthers, where we give you an inside look at his historic winning team and his staff, the Tougaloo Bulldogs. I'm Katina Rankin.
I'm Eric Struthers, and in my corner this week, I had the legendary Coach Billups.
Coach Billups, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
It's quite an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's good to be here with you all.
Listen, I want to take you back to Louisville, as some say, or Louisville, whichever way you want to pronounce it, because they do both. Can you tell us about your childhood?
Well, my childhood was pretty poor growing up. You know, we had to, what you all don't know nothing about, we had to pick cotton, had to plow mule, we had to go out and cut our firewood for heat. We didn't have no refrigerator, we had an ice box. It was just really bad for us back then.
So where did you find the intestinal fortitude to keep it moving?
Well, with my mom was always a lady that worked all the time. And they always told me, if you work hard, something's gonna come out of it. So that's what I got that from my mom and my dad.
Now I heard you were a little feisty growing up and that you used to fight every day. Is that correct?
Yeah, we used to fight every day. If I lost a fight, I had to fight every day until I win that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we did. But we always fought fair. We didn't have no guns, we didn't have no knife, things like that.
It was all there.
Always there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I also want to talk about this. I want to talk about you going through your high school years, because I understand that part of your motivation, the toughness that you have, came from a math teacher who told you that there was something you could not do. Can you share that?
Well, yeah. My high school football coach, he was a great motivator too also. So I started playing football, baseball, running track in the 8th grade. I was playing at the varsity level. And, most of the time, I had to go home, work. When I finished playing, practicing football or whatever sport it was in, I had to go home and also work. So, and I didn't have a ride. We had a group of guys that was in my neighborhood. We always walked home. And sometimes somebody might come along and give us a ride, but we didn't worry about it because, hey, that was helping us get in condition for football or baseball or basketball or whatever. My high school math teacher, he told me, we was getting ready for a football game. I was the quarterback. And we was out in football players, we was out in the hallway just messing off, and the bell called me. And, I was afraid to go to my math class because I knew he was going to, talk about me. So I eased through the door. I didn't say nothing. He turned around. He said, Billups? And if you just knew how he was, he said, Billups? He'll pause for a while and say, it ain't too many Billups around here, is it? I said, no, sir, Mr. Hemphill. He said, well, you know what? You ain't gonna never amount to anything. And I took that as a motivation. But now I knew what he was doing. He said that to motivate me. And that's how I got started on, working hard, listening to my parents, and it just made me a better man.
You came from a big family. Tell me about that.
We had 14 kids.
Wow.
And I'm the baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one that finished 8th grade. And I graduated, but I'm saying all my other sisters and brothers, my mom finished to 10th grade. But other than that, I'm the only one that graduated from high school.
And then you went on to college. You went to Jackson State University.
Well, I had scholarship to Kentucky State, Mississippi Valley, and East Central Junior College. So I went to Mississippi Valley first, then I transferred from there and went to East Central. From East Central, I played baseball and football. I was the first black quarterback at East Central. So after that, I transferred to Jackson State. I went there and played 1 year and kind of got behind on my schooling. And I just didn't play my senior year. And I took 20 hours, but I had to go get permission to take that. I took 20 hours to graduate on time. And I passed everything.
That's awesome. For you at home who are probably wondering, okay, so this is the Coach Eric Struthers show, but Katina Rankin is asking all of these questions. I'm going to bring the coach in a moment, but I want you to know his history and perhaps it will motivate you as well. Coach, I want to talk about your coaching career because it actually started when you were at Jackson State and you went to Canton, I believe?
Yeah, I was doing my student teaching. And I went to Canton. I had to go to Canton because two other people was at Canton, and I was the only one that had a ride. So they kind of worked with us to put people together so they could make sure they had a ride to a student teacher, to that school. So I had a 9th grade. I was coaching the 9th grade. The principal asked me about coaching the 9th grade because they didn't have a 9th grade coach. So I told him I would do it. And from that time on now, if you can remember now, I played baseball, played football, I ran track, and I played basketball. But my best sport was baseball and basketball. So I started coaching that team. And from that time, that 9th grade, doing my student teaching, I started liking basketball better than I did the other sports. So I kind of still stayed with all of them. Since I've been coaching, I've been coached volleyball, basketball, football, baseball, and all the sports that I coached, I had a winning season in. So,
Coach Struthers, I know this is your show,
Yeah.
but there are a few more questions that I would like to ask him before we begin talking about sports. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Okay. So from Canton, you go to Vicksburg.
yeah, when I graduated, I didn't have a job. So my uncle got me a job in Cleveland, Ohio, at Pittsburgh Paint and Glass. And during the summer, I had already got married. Me and my wife were married. Matter of fact, I married my high school sweetheart. So I went to Cleveland, Ohio, stayed there 3 months. And a job came open in Vicksburg. And she called me at the coaching clinic. She was down at the coaching clinic and she saw the job on the board. So she called me. So I caught a plane that night and came home for the next day. Went to Vicksburg. Filled out the application, had an interview with the principal, and he said he was gonna give me a couple of days. And I guess I got lucky because he had interviewed one of the top football players from Alcorn. So he ended up didn't pass his teaching certification. So they called me the next day, and so that's where I started in Vicksburg.
And then you led that team to some championships.
Oh yeah, well I
was
was coaching 9th grade. I started in the 9th grade. 9th grade basketball, 9th grade football, and 9th grade track. I stayed there 1 year. I guess because I was doing so well, I guess. And I moved up to the high school the next year. But I was the assistant at that time.
Is that how you met Mr. Struthers?
Yeah, I met Coach Struthers. He was playing football. He was my defensive end. I was over the defensive end and the offense. And that's where I met Coach Strutt. And, and I think I also coached basketball. And I think Coach Strut was a little scared to come out for basketball, because I was an old school coach, and they was kind of afraid of old school coaches at that time. But once I got them under me, I couldn't get them I couldn't get them to leave because they love that. Back then, kids loved to be coached tough because that's the way I was coached tough. It was, tough love.
We talked a little bit about this on your first show, but I want to bring people up to speed in case they missed it. And I remember you said there was something that you saw him doing, putting some guys on smoke.
Yeah. When I saw Coach Billups, and you got to respect it when you see him. He was a really young coach at the time. He was in his 20s, so he had a lot of energy, and the team was 48. The team I'm talking about was 48-0. And they lost one game. And back then, I was told you can bring guys out and put the board on them. And man, he put the board on those guys. So when I saw that, I knew I wasn't going out for basketball. But I was able to still play under Coach Billups in my position coach, which he taught the defensive ends and the tight ends at that time for Vicksburg High School.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting how people don't know that that's how you all started. And we'll get more into that in just a moment. Well, before we go there, what did you think of Struthers when you first met him on the football field?
Well, he was kind of skinny, probably about 6'3", 6'4". After I got there, I started teaching him, and he was one of my best defensive end and tight end that we had on the team. So he did well.
Okay, awesome. When you left Vicksburg, I believe you traveled to Jackson and you made a pit stop at Blackburn?
Well, I stayed in Vicksburg for 12 years. And I won 3 Little Six conference basketball. So me and my wife, I was kind of, transferring from back and forth. So I decided, I said, well, I had 2 kids. I said, it's time for me to go home and start teaching my kids, So me and my wife got together and I went to Blackburn Junior High, filled out the application, and I got hired. So it was time for me to come home because I needed to be with my kids at that time. So I went to Blackburn and I won 3 city championships in basketball. So after that year, I didn't go and put in an application for Lanier High School. All of my players. So when my players left Blackburn, some of them went to Jim Hill, some went to Provine, some went to Lanier. So all of those guys started talking to the principal about they needed me at Lanier because I coached them at Blackburn. And I didn't get that job. The kids got that job for me. And the principal came and talked to me and asked me, and I told him, yeah, I would take the job.
I believe, you made it to 1-8, am I correct? Championships there, but you had 13 appearances?
Oh, yeah, I won 8. Well, let me go back a little bit. I won 1 in Vicksburg.
Okay.
As an assistant coach, I won 8 in JPS, in Jackson Public School System. And like you said, I went there, I appeared 16 times for the championship.
And so that's a lot, right?
Yes.
That's quite an accomplishment. So while you were at Lanier, Struthers was at Jackson State?
Right.
And so what would you do, Strutt?
Well, I always kept in touch with Coach Billups because he's one of my guys that I really looked up to, and he was one of my guys that when I need information, I would call him. So what we would do, I was at Jackson State at the time, I would take my players over to Lanier because we'd get some run. And he had guys that could compete right away in Lanier. He had Division I players over there. So my guys loved to go over there and play. But what I didn't love that was happening, his guys would beat my guys. So we started making it a big challenge, and of course, I always kept in touch with Coach Billups, and I recruited the players that Coach Billups had to come to Jackson State. He always wanted to send guys to Jackson State. He always wanted to make Jackson State better. So that was the reason why I was at Jackson State for 20 years, and this is a guy that helped me on my career.
So why did you want to keep in touch with him? What was it about Coach Billups that made you want to keep that connection going?
Well, he got so much knowledge. And I'm just not just on the floor, but off the floor, just talking about different things. And I learn a lot from him. I go to his office sometimes, just sit in the chair and just listen to him talk, because every time I get a chance to talk to Coach Billups, I learn something different. Learn something new that makes me a lot better as a coach and as a player. And I used all that this year. A lot of that this year for this team.
You always wanted to be a head coach. So you're at Lanier. People aren't giving you chances. Was there one more stop before you made it to Tougaloo, or did you go straight from Lanier to Tougaloo?
Well, no, I stayed at Lanier for 23 years.
Wow.
23 years. That's where I won all the state championships. And I sent players to different colleges, and most all of my players now, I just didn't teach them basketball. I teach them the way of life. And I just love to be around kids, and I love what I do. And most of my kids now that I coached, they got good jobs. And I sent 3 to the NBA, 17 overseas for basketball. And right now, most of those kids call me, or most of them come back to see me when they come home.
So when did Tougaloo call? How did that happen?
Well, this is a long story here about Tougaloo, but I retired when I was 55 at JPS. So Lanier was one of the best community school, best fan. You had the best basketball fans in the world. So we always did a new school, old school basketball game. Well, we bring back the old school and play the new school. So we had a superintendent that came in named Gray. So he wanted to charge me to use the gym. And it really was a fundraiser for our basketball team. And he wanted to charge me. And we went through and filled out all the paperwork that we needed to fill out. But that Saturday, we got to the gym. We had about 300 people on the outside, and security came and closed the gym on us. We didn't get a chance to play that game. So, me, I had to go ask them what happened. And so I just said what he told me. Channel 16 was there, I believe. And they interviewed me, and I told them that the first thing they asked me, well, Coach, you didn't talk to your superintendent? I said, I just got off the phone with him. And he told me that it was some kind of communication problem. But we filled out all the paperwork. So from that day on, the next Monday of that week, he called me downtown. But, I had promised myself I would never go downtown again unless I had my lawyer, my attorney with me. So when I went downtown, they didn't want him in there. So I said, that's fine, but he can sit outside just in case I need him. But now, Jackson Public School System been good to me. I want to get that clear. They've been good to me.
And Dr. Sargent was real good.
She was my lady. Mm-hmm. She the one that built the gym. She told me, she said, Coach, I got to build you a new gym because I'm tired of coming over or going to other schools there in the city where people done broke into one that's trying to get in the game because it's a sellout. So she built me a new gym. But going back to what I said a few minutes ago, it was just great. He came in and he wanted to, and I had a lot of people that was on my team, I'll put it like that. And he didn't like because so many, that community was behind me 100%. So it was about 13 other retired teachers. So he let all retired teachers go to get me out of there. So, and I continued to trying to work with him. I worked with Reverend Young. The superintendent, when he found out that they had let me go, well, not let me go, it was because I was a retired teacher.
Right.
But that was the only way that he could get me out of the system. Because in the gym, my evaluation was higher than anybody at the school. Because the principal didn't even come to the gym because they knew I was going to take care of that gym. With sagging pants, earrings, you couldn't come in there unless you were dressed just like myself and Coach Strut. You couldn't come in there with your pants hanging down. I would send you back. So what I was saying is that I got an evaluation higher than anybody in the school. So after he got rid of those teachers and myself, because we were retired, so I just got tired and I say, well, I'm out. I said, I'll make this decision myself. I'm out. I'll leave. So when they put it in the paper, in the Clarence Ledger at that time, I think I put it in there that afternoon, that morning, the next morning, around 11 o'clock. I had 3 jobs already.
Wow.
And I took the one in Oak Grove. I went to Oak Grove, and it was so much better than where I was at JPS. And don't get me wrong now, JPS been good to me. It was just that superintendent came in. Everybody else, we loved each other. It was just like a community college at Lanier. But after that, I went down there stayed 1 year, and I kind of built the team. They hadn't won too many games. I think they won 6 games that past year. I went down there and went 13-13. So the following year, before that year, I got a call to Tougaloo. So I left the team with my assistant coach. The following year, we built that team. The following year, he made it to the big house, to the Coliseum with 8th graders and 9th graders and 10th graders. So I got the call to Tougaloo. So I accepted a job from Tougaloo.
Coach Billups, we could talk to you forever, and we're going to continue this segment into next week. And we want everyone at home to come back and join us because there's going to be a part 2 where I have more questions for Coach Billups and Coach Struthers. He has to talk basketball with him, and you might learn some inside tricks of the trade about what happens at Tougaloo between the two of them.
I'm Eric Struthers along with Katina Rankin, and come back for Coach's Corner next week with Coach Billups.
Thanks for joining us.